this is Cold Turkey 49, throwing down with a Guardian in Guild Wars 2. I've been playing a lot of different professions, always trying out new stuff, and I figured, you know what, now is the time to try out some Guardian. They're kind of, I guess if you had to make a real general statement, a bit like the Paladin in World of Warcraft, but that's pretty overgeneralizing things. I think Guardians are pretty cool. They're definitely a durable, sturdy, more of a defensive kind of profession, which makes them very valuable in structured PvP in Guild Wars 2, because as you all know, at least at the time of me making this video, in structured PvP in Guild Wars 2, you only have Conquest mode, where you defend your points and you take points. So as a Guardian, you can be really, really good at defending points. And don't get me wrong, you can be good at taking points too, but you're definitely much more tuned to defending points. And you hear people talk about things like bunker builds and things like that. But you can build a Guardian several different ways, and I wanted to talk about just a build I've been having some fun with. And yeah, I don't know, I don't really take it too seriously with the Guardian, because I'm just doing hot join PvP. I'm not really playing any tournaments or anything, so obviously if you're playing tournaments, probably not the best, but maybe it'd work in tournaments too. I don't know. I've never played this build in tournaments. It's been a long time since I've played a tournament. I've just been having fun doing hot join PvP. But enough yakety schmacketing, let's get to the build. So this build is just a Greatsword Hammer, that's it. And then I have my staff in my item inventory on the lower left hand side of the screen, swap out for a speed buff here and there. So with your Greatsword, it's pretty nice. You know, you got some pretty decent AoE. You got some pretty sturdy single target damage as well. And you got some mobility like Leap of Faith, your number 3, which is kind of handy. And then you look more towards your hammer. A hammer has some decent damage, not quite as much as the Greatsword, obviously. One of the nice things with hammer is you have a very long range. I think it's 2.5 second immobilize on your 3 ability. And then your number 5 is like a little circle that people can't pass unless obviously they have stability, which is a good way to trap people in with you or to keep people away from you. Good for defending a point, keeping people off things. All in all, pretty good abilities. And remember when you're playing your Guardian, just to talk about a Guardian, you have your virtues. So Virtue of Justice, which is all about burning stuff. Virtue of Resolve, which is about regenerating yourself, healing yourself. Virtue of Courage, which is about granting you an Aegis, which blocks the next coming attack. Aegis can also block abilities and attacks. So activating your Aegis at the right time, when you know a really powerful spell is about to hit you, can be very, very key to playing a Guardian successfully. As a matter of fact, I would dare to say that proper Aegis management through Virtue of Courage and potentially other abilities is one of the things that sets apart a good Guardian from a great Guardian. And it's definitely something I've been learning as I've been playing the profession. Next up, we're going to get into abilities, and then we'll go into our traits after that. First up is healing. I like to go Signet of Resolve. Cures a condition every 10 seconds as a passive, and you can use it to heal yourself. It was pretty nice. Then for 7, 8, 9, I like to go All Shouts. Retreat, which is Aegis and Swiftness, 24 seconds of Swiftness, which is nice. Stand Your Ground, which is stability and retaliation, and then Hold the Line, which is protection and regeneration. Regeneration lasts longer than the protection, but still. And also remember that these shouts can affect nearby allies. I think Retreat's limited to up to 5, and I'm not 100% sure on Hold the Line and Stand Your Ground. So these are all shouts, and the reason they're all shouts, and we'll get into this, is once again when we go into traits, but these are definitely about buffing you, buffing your team, because these all affect allies. Technically, you want to use them, if you can, when you're around friends. If you're defending a point, taking a point. If you're doing it by yourself, hey, you know what, you could still succeed, but if you got 2 or 3 allies with you, all the better, because your shouts will affect them if they're close enough. And then for the ultimate, I like Renewed Focus. I really like it because it makes you immune to everything for a couple of seconds. This is a really good way to dodge powerful attacks, and on top of that, it recharges all your virtues so you can activate them again, and it's only got a 90-second cooldown, whereas the other PvP options for ultimates for a Guardian have extremely long cooldowns. Although you could argue they're more powerful, I still like having something on a lower cooldown, kind of like with the Warrior, how Signet well, anyway, we're here to talk about the Guardian. Now let's move into traits. We've talked about abilities and weapons. Why am I going with Hammer, Greatsword, and then a staff in my bag? Why am I going all shouts? Well, the trait build I like to go is 30 down Zeal. I don't did anything in Radiance or Valor. 20 down Honor, and 20 down Virtues. So when you go 30 down Zeal, that's going to give you a ton of power, 300 power. And we'll be going back and we'll be talking about sigils and runes in a second. and obviously all that good stuff. But just for now, remember that going 30 down, Zeal. So it does that. Then I like to take, for actual 10, 20s, and 30s, I like to go number 2, Fiery Wrath. So you do more damage against burning foes. Then I think it's 7. It's a V and 2, 1. So yeah, that'd be 7. Duh. The Greatsword damage is increased. And then 12, Zealous Blade. Greatsword attacks heal you. The heal isn't that much, but it can save you, especially if you keep on a target and you keep attacking them. The heal can make the difference. Some people don't like Zealous Blade. They think it's too weak. Hey, you know what? This build is by no means me claiming it's the best build in the world. Feel free to augment or to use something different. That's cool with me, but that's just how I'm rolling. And then we skip all the way down to Honor. This increases your vitality and your healing. Your shouts recharge 20% faster because you're going to be taking number 2 in your 10 slot, and then in your 20 slot, Two-Handed Mastery, which is two-handed weapon skills recharge 20% faster. So that right there, just going 20 down Honor is, in my opinion, the linchpin of this entire build, because your shouts recharge 20% faster, and you can get that as your 10 rank. Well, that's why I'm stacking all shouts on my utilities. And then on top of that, Two-Handed Mastery, two-handed weapon, recharge 20%. That affects your staff. That affects your hammer. That affects your greatsword. Definitely important if you're going to be using those weapons to go 20 down Honor and take those traits. And then lastly, we're going to go 20 down Virtues. I like to take number 4, Retaliatory Subconscious, getting 3 seconds of retaliation whenever you are dazed, stunned, knocked back, knocked down, feared. 30-second recharge. This is handy, especially against Basil's Venom. You know, that just, you know, they hit you with the stun. They might be opening up on a lot of damage. That 3 seconds of retaliation hopefully can put some damage onto them while you're going to be recovering from that. And then I like to take 10 in my 20 slot, or the big X, Indomitable Courage. And yeah, Virtue Cooch, 3 seconds of stability. Stability's kind of nice. You can't get CC'd around. So that's talking about traits. Let's move on to a little bit of equipment off section here. First of all, talking about your amulet and your jewel. I prefer to go Soldier's Amulet and Soldier's Jewel with this build. Both of these prioritize power, with toughness and vitality being secondary. Once again, because you are a Guardian, and being tough, being there, you know, you're the rock. You're defending that point, or taking the point. So also remember that power, we went all the way down Zeal, we got all that power, and then we're going to be getting a ton of power from our amulet and our jewel. What does that mean? What's the difference between power and precision? Well, remember, precision affects your critical chance, whereas power just affects your damage. So with this build, what you're going to find is you're going to do pretty decent damage, but you're only going to have about a 4% crit chance. In other words, you're never really going to be critting anything. Oh, it might happen occasionally here and there, but I wouldn't exactly bank the farm on it. No, you're going to have a steady, sustained damage output because you're going to be high power. So it's kind of a slow and steady, but hopefully, because you're so durable, that over time will take its toll and you'll be able to take out the enemy, or you'll be able to last long enough. If maybe there's 2 or 3 people, you'll be able to last long enough for your friends to show up, and you can turn the tides of the fight and win. So that's the amulet and the jewel setup. And then for armor, I like to take runes of, I'm probably mispronouncing this, Melindru, Melandru, Melindra, whatever. So basically, these runes give you toughness, and on top of that, if you have all 6 of them equipped, and remember taking into account your water breather, these are nice because what they do is they give you minus 25% condition duration and minus 25% stun duration on things that are affecting you, on top of all the bonus toughness. This is really, really super handy in my opinion. If somebody hits you with 4-second bleed, now it's a 3-second bleed. 4-second poison is a 3-second poison. 2-second stun, 1.5-second stun. It doesn't sound like much, but remember there's no cooldown on this. A lot of runes, when you get to the 6th ability, they have some sort of a cooldown, like a 90-second cooldown or a 30-second cooldown, but these don't, so I definitely take them. They got like a little flower or a piece of wheat on them or something. Other runes you'll hear people talking about are runes of Svanir. These were nerfed pretty heavily in the December 15th patch, and rightfully so. People were exploiting them, in my opinion, because you could still cap a point even when you were... Because you could use a stun breaker when you hit the ice block and then still move around to cap the point, but being vulnerable to everything, which was lame. So it's a good thing they nerfed them. That doesn't make runes of Svanir useless, but I don't think they're quite as good as they used to be. And then for sigils on my weapons, I like to just use straight up Sigils of Superior Force plus 5% damage. Now, some people might question that and say, Sigel's a superior force. Are you sure about that? There was a really good forum post in the official Guild Wars 2 forums where a person was discussing how if you're going for a high power, no crit chance build, which is exactly what this is, because remember with this build you're going to have over 2,000 power, so you're going to be hitting for a pretty decent amount of damage, but you have almost no crit chance. So if you have a lot of power but no precision, no crit chance, no crit damage bonuses, then believe it or not, that 5% actually adds up, because remember, power is what calculates your base damage, and Sigils of Superior Force have plus 5% damage. And he went through and he did all the math and everything, so, you know, go find that thread if you want, but I just think it's good, because a lot of Sigils rely on critical hits to have their abilities tick off. Well, you're not really critting with this build, so you can't use those. And then a lot of other Sigils rely on weapon swap, so you swap your weapon and the effect happens. Well, with this build, you're not going to be swapping weapons that much. I use the Greatsword almost all the time. I only really need to switch out to the hammer if I need that long range immobilize, or if I need to keep people away for a few seconds with the number 5 ability, which creates that little bubble. Otherwise, I can use my Greatsword. I have mobility, I have better damage, retaliation on your number 4. Yeah, that's pretty nice. And then not to mention you get might from your auto attacks on your Greatsword, and if you're taking the traits that I took, then you're also going to be healing with Greatsword attacks, and you traded with Greatsword doing more damage. One variation on this build that you could do and still get away with it, because you could switch out your Virtues and Zeal, switch the traits out on those, but keep your traits on Honor the same. That way you'd keep using Shouts and you'd keep using two-handed weapons, but what you could do is you could slot in for spirit weapons, and that's actually something I want to try. So instead of focusing on Greatsword, you focus on spirit weapons, and instead of focusing on like Virtue of Courage and, you know, 3 seconds of retaliation, you stun, you focus on spear and weapons down in the Virtues and then up in the Zeal. And that's definitely a variation I'd want to try, although more than likely you'd still be keeping the Shout and the 2-weapon setup. So yeah, things are going pretty good. I've been having a lot of fun with the Guardian. Next up, I'm not sure what I'm going to try. You can see in a lot of the footage here, at least I think, is rank 39, so I'm about to hit rank 40. And, you know, it's been a slow process. It's really, once you hit rank 30, it goes so slow. And I can't even imagine how slow it's going to get once I hit rank 40. And the other thing is some people have been asking, well, hey, what's going on? You know what, with Guild Wars 2, you hear a lot of doom and gloom posts on the forums. I think that's just a vocal minority. When I log in and I look at the PvP list, because you have to click on the list, it's pretty much the same as it's always been. Everything's full for the first 30 to 40 server slots. You always have 16 versus 16, and then things to start weed out. The first 2 weeks were definitely a higher population than this, so I don't know. It seems like some people have left the game, but it's been out for a couple of months, and no MMO has a 100% retention rate. Even World of Warcraft hasn't been retaining everybody that bought the latest expansion. But one of the unfortunate effects that has happened is everybody in my guild no longer plays the game. So that's kind of an interesting thing, is I log on, I go to the PvP, and there's still the same number of people there, but in my guild, everybody's left, which does make it a bit of a lonely game. And MMOs, definitely you could argue the social aspect is one of the reasons you play. So it's kind of an interesting dynamic. And my friend's guild, Kanashi, same thing with his guild too. Nobody's logging on in these guilds. But then you go to the PvP and you look, and you know, the first 30 to 40 PvP servers are full. So I'm kind of scratching my head at that. Like, I don't know what's going on. Were people leaving guilds? People who were from my channel just stopped playing because the only reason they played is because of my channel? I don't know. It's kind of a weird situation. So I can see the positive and the negatives in that. And if you watched the State of the Game, the first video came out where they had one of the developers of the game on, which was cool. I think it was the Jonathan Sharp guy, where he talked about kind of what they're working towards. I think they're working towards matchmaking, private servers. I can't remember. There were 3 top priorities that they're hoping to finish within the next month or so, I think. Like I said, I'm a little foggy on that. So things are definitely moving along. You know, I think Guild Wars 2 could have a bright future ahead of it, but it's a little rocky right now. Even though there are a lot of doom and gloom posts, and admittedly those are by the vocal minority, it still bears consideration. Will Guild Wars 2 make it as a game? Will their dreams of becoming an esport in 2013 be realized? Or was it all just smoke and mirrors? I'm not really sure yet. Like I said, I see the potential, but a lot of games have a lot of potential and flounder. And we'll see what happens. So, yeah, this is Cold Turkey. Thanks for watching.